Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to be my look at this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of November 2021. In case you're not aware, this is where the game's director, Okada, talks to us about what's to come in the month ahead and often teases things about the game's future as a whole. We're also coming off the anniversary month, technically at the end of September, but with lots of anniversary goodness happening throughout October and even into the beginning of November. We still have a few days of free daily tenfolds left, as well as our free hundredfold summon. So now headed into November, it's a little bit of a quieter period for Dragalia Lost in general. We have had some collaboration events in November in the past, but with none announced this year during the Dragalia Digest, it feels like things are going to slow down, and in fact, we've been told in a previous news post that starting in November and going forward for Dragalia Lost, we're likely to see fewer new adventures, fewer new events month to month. So we'll see exactly what that looks like. There are things teased in this month that imply we are getting some new adventures and at least one new event, as well as some other content updates. So we'll see as the months progress just what the content looks like and how everything shakes out. Anyway, let's go and head into the this month post so we can read through it. I'll just provide my thoughts, reactions, impressions, etc. Of course, we also got a campaign update today, which I'll post my reaction to tomorrow. I've yet to play through that. And with it being the first of the month, just as a reminder, your shop counts are reset, your exchange limits and your treasure trade for astral raids and void battles is reset. Also, worm sigils, that might be relevant if you want those Champion's Testaments, depending on how your summons went during the free summon period. Anyway, here we are in this month. So, as always, Director Okada thanks us for playing Dragalia Lost, and then we get a recap of what's happening right now. So the first thing that's currently happening in Dragalia Lost is the latest chapter of the main campaign. It dropped today. It's chapter 22, part 1, and Okada acknowledges here that they jumped a bit ahead in the timeline for the Faith Forsaken raid event last month, so we're returning to the plot of the main campaign, and it may be a bit jarring, but we're going to learn about Nedric's past and what happens when he and the prince come face to face. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, I've yet to read this. I am going to be careful about comments and Discord, Reddit, etc. to avoid spoilers, but probably as soon as I finish recording this, I'll go play through it and get to read and enjoy the chapter. I do think that it was implied at the end of last chapter that we'll face a certain dragon as a boss, so we'll see if that pans out or not. Anyway, it also says parts 1 and 2 each feature their own special boss. Oh, well, I guess I should have read that first, so maybe there's an additional boss that I wasn't expecting. So make sure your teams are in fighting form. By the way, if the additional boss is Gala Beast Ciela, I can't even with that, so we got Chronos Nyx. I don't need to see Ciela in the main campaign, even if she's going to be an awesome summonable dragon. And speaking of Gala Chronos Nyx, don't forget the daily free tenfold summon event. The 5-star dragon Gala Chronos Nyx appears in a Gala Dragalia available now. That's the one with Halloween Silas and Halloween Laxi. Gala Chronos Nyx appears, and you can learn more about him by reading the dragon story for him. And he appeared in the Fractured Futures and Rage of Chronos events. So apparently a lot of people really like his design. That's one of the things that I've seen across Twitter, Reddit, Discord. People just seem to really like this type of dragon design. It kind of reminds me of Digimon, to be honest. Just the anthropomorphized dragon and something about it. That's just the vibe I get. I kind of got the same vibe from Sandalphin's Heavenly Wings form. If you remember, I think it was it Gatomon that digivolved into like an angel, right? A seraph with the mask of sorts. That's kind of the vibe I got from Sandalphin, and maybe from the other Heavenly Wings forms as well. Of course, in Dragalia Lost, there's dragons of all shapes and sizes, ranging from the fearsome Kronos to the little mini Kronos there, and then Chronos Nyx somewhere in between, or perhaps on another spectrum entirely. But anyway, a lot of people like him. Having seen him in action, he is much more impressive than I would have anticipated just reading his kit. The fact that you can stay in dragon form is very strong, so there's literally solos of Yuden equipped with Nyx against Legend Tartarus, which is not something I was expecting regardless of how powerful his dragon form was. So it's powerful to a busted degree, and the Dragon Strike actually is pretty relevant for the Berserk phase of that fight, where you can quickly diminish the overdrive gauge. It's kind of insane, to be honest, how strong Cronus Nyx's dragon form is. So this ends up being a really good outcome from that showcase if this is what you end up summoning. Probably surpasses Reborn Jean as the best light dragon. I would say that Reborn Jean, with the max HP buffs, there are good qualities there too. Sometimes that long skill animation's not a bad thing. But, and on paper, her aura is generally going to be better than Cronus Nyx's because of the diminishing return. So if you're doing a no shapeshift auto strategy, let's say, maybe you have Draconic Resurrection Prince, well, of course, you want to use your Reborn Jean, but, even in a shapeshift auto, her max HP might come in handy. Well, all this to say, Cronus Nyx, just the dragon form, would more than compensate for the fact that your aura is a little bit weaker. It's a very, very strong dragon form. It's kind of ridiculously powerful. So I expect at this point that for future content, this is going to be a go-to dragon. And yeah, it seems very busted. That's my impression. If you're true soloing a Legend Agito battle, not many adventurers can do that. And this dragon taking the light element in that direction is pretty remarkable, because light I wouldn't consider to be one of the better elements in Dragalia Lost as far as the dragon selection goes. So that showcase has proven its worth. I think Laxi is quite good, and then Silas has become a great include if you're trying to auto battle Master Surtr as well, and certainly more than capable of doing that for Expert Asura too. So anyway, great showcase. Still holding out, have not gotten anything off my daily free tenfold, so still holding out to summon toward the end of it. Moving on here, we get a reminder about the Clockwork Heart facility event, and one thing that was pointed out to me in the comments, I did not catch this reference, but there's a lot of Frankenstein references in the play that's happening. Philosophia's monster, right? Frankenstein's monster. You have Marley and Shelley. So yeah, this is actually kind of a neat little reference and nod that I didn't even pick up on when I was playing through it. I posted my event overview video yesterday. Just not a whole lot to say on this event beyond what I said there. Facility events are sort of ho-hum. Raid events can veer into that territory as well, but we have had a little bit more experimentation, I would say, just with how raids are executed, especially around anniversary, so they feel a little bit more fresh and original in some ways. And the defensive and onslaught events that we've had in the mid-months, those are kind of where facility events are at for me, that they're just sort of more of the same, and it felt like something we wanted, but then when we actually got it, it really wasn't something we wanted. And now we have Legion trials for Trials of the Mighty. It's like, is that what we really wanted? Did we really want wave-based enemies? Because those tend to be some of the less fun trials for folks, especially with the weapon restrictions. So, I don't know. But I did enjoy the event, enjoyed the characters that appear in it, of course. It goes on, Okada goes on to say that it tells the story of Halloween Silas and Halloween Laxi, who are also in the Gala Dragalia. But from here we get into plans for this month. So, speaking of Halloween, limited time adventures and dragons with a Halloween theme will return in a summon showcase starting on November 4th at 1 a.m. in my time zone. If you're on the west coast of the United States, this is going to be November 3rd for you at 11 p.m. You get that lucky 11 p.m. reset. Meanwhile, East Coasters are up until 2 a.m. waiting for their reset. But the US still follows daylight savings time in a lot of places, so, we're about to head into that, and your resets will be a little bit more favorable, and I'll be getting a midnight one myself that I'm looking forward to. That is the one thing right now, when it comes to, these overnight autos, right? You have your 99 Surtr runs, your 99 Asura, whatever Syndom content you're trying to clear, but unless you can stay awake until reset, then you'll run into the problem that a new day will dawn in the middle of your 99 runs, and then it'll interrupt everything. So Dragalia is really a min-max game in that sense. Anyway, Halloween Fantasia is coming back. We have Meridimus, we have Mim, we have Melsa, and of course the tiny Meridimus riding on a star in the corner there. Based on what's shown here, this isn't every year of Halloween content, but the expectation is certainly that every year of Halloween adventures will be here, perhaps with the exception of Silas and Laxi. The summon showcase is available during the free hundredfold summon event, so that first day when this drops, make sure you log into Dragalia Lost that day. If you don't want to miss it, just log in throughout the rest of this week. You won't miss it. There's also daily free tenfolds in the lead up to it. But yeah, you don't want to let your foot off the gas, so to speak, with the free daily tenfolds and hundredfolds, even though we're over a month after the anniversary at this point. That hundredfold summon is going to be super nice, and the fact that it's on a seasonal rerun banner, if you have all these characters, not going to be the best for you, but it's also maybe not any better or worse than any other sort of random showcase. It's certainly better than like an elemental focus probably, or something that's much more niche like that. Maybe even better than a dragon special. Hard to say, but Meridimus, still a dragon that has some applications every now and then, so there's some appeal there. Halloween Mim has the critical damage co-ability that's special to her. Akasha and Melsa didn't really see a lot of use. Halloween Elisan doesn't see a whole lot of use nowadays, but she's a fine adventurer. Edward I actually kind of like because of the bleed, and who else do we have? Althemia can be used for some autos with her Mana Spiral. So yeah, there's some okay selection here. Halloween Lowen is a famous Halloween adventurer that for a time and even now is probably the best flame healer, or at least one of them. We have Halloween Odetta. There's quite a wide variety of Halloween adventures as I think about it. I guess because of the timing of Dragalia Lost release, originally, we sort of have one more wave of Halloween adventurers compared to some other holidays. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool showcase. Hopefully, if you're missing anyone, you're able to get them. And then there's also a little wrinkle to this. On this showcase, you can redeem an adventure or dragon of your choice for only 200 worm sigils instead of the usual 300. So for sparking, it's only going to take 200 summons, or your free 100 summons. So beyond that, you would just need to summon 100 more times with Wormite, or 50 more times with Diamantium, because those give you twice as many worm sigils. And then you'll be able to spark. So this is kind of interesting. They also mention here the list of redeemable adventures and dragons includes those with a Halloween theme, as well as some other additions. So some other additions there, that is appealing to me, since maybe it's a character I'm missing. 50 summons with Diamantium, I could probably swing that to get a guarantee shot at a character that I'm missing. So even if I don't really value the 300 summons as much, having collected the past Halloween adventures, the opportunity to spark for somebody I don't have here, that's at least kind of interesting. Most of us are going to be pretty drained on resources after the anniversary month though, so it may be a little difficult to afford to do this, so it's actually a little bit of a subtle way of monetizing, I would say, just making it a little bit more enticing to want to pay a little bit to get a guarantee. But if the past is any indication, well, I'm not sure what the appearance rates will be like for the 4 stars. Hopefully they're at an appearance rate up, but sometimes, even in 100 summons, players were not getting Halloween Lowens, and in some cases they might have had to spark for them, that sort of deal. Hopefully we can avoid that. The fact that you have 300 summons should help, but the 200 spark is kind of interesting. It'd be nice to see something like that happen on a permanent basis, as unlikely as it may be. Anyway, we read on here, and the next bit of news is about an Onslaught event happening in mid-November. So the story is set in a courtroom, and a certain braggart from the Halidom will moonlight as a lawyer seeking to right some wrongs. Will justice be served, or will chaos ensue? This is very, very interesting to me. Alright, so first of all, it's a new Onslaught event, so new content. It's not the freshest most of the time, but the stories are usually pretty good, pretty concise. Mid-November, it's set in a courtroom, so immediately my mind goes to Ace Attorney. We know that Dragalia Lost has had collaborations with Capcom in the past. We had a Monster Hunter collab. We had a Mega Man collab. Is Ace Attorney on the menu? I could actually kind of see it happening. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be this month, but having a courtroom themed event, feels like a pretty good lead into an Ace Attorney collab of some kind, even if it's a smaller collab like we've gotten in November's past. So that'd be pretty neat if that actually comes to be, but even the event itself could be kind of fun. It's a different setting than we're used to, and I think a lot of players are feeling like this is probably going to be a Harle alt of some kind because of the word justice being in here, and that being a favorite theme of Harle being a pretty popular adventurer too, one that's been with the game since the beginning. The other adventure that I want to throw out there, and maybe it's a both and not an either or, but I do want to throw out there, Heinwald feels like an adventure that could sort of fit this to me. I wouldn't necessarily call him a braggart, but I wouldn't say that about Harle either. But Heinwald, in his adventure stories and just his demeanor, he does have a little bit of a cockiness or arrogance to him, sort of I know more than you attitude about things. He's always in control. So I could see that description sort of fitting him, moonlighting as a lawyer. They say, will chaos ensue, right? Heinwald's skill, Call of Chaos. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. I think it's unlikely. I feel like Harle's probably more likely, but if you think about it, we have a Curran alt. We have a Lathna alt, Festival alts. We don't have a Heinwald alt yet. So could this be the time that we get a lawyer Heinwald? I could kind of see it. I don't know. Something about it feels like it could work to me. It's still relatively close to Halloween. It's still funny that, they're having the Halloween Fantasia banner like in November instead of in the lead up to Halloween. But, there's still spooky vibes, right? Halloween banner's still happening. So maybe it would be the appropriate time for another event in Heinwald and Curran and Lathna's series. Not saying it's going to happen for sure, but that would be my second guess after Harle. Alright, so reading on past the Onslaught event, then we're getting a rerun of The Phantom's Ransom in mid-November. Build and upgrade the event exclusive facility, the Opera House, which boosts the stats of adventurers who wield bows or manacasters. That event actually reminds me a lot of our current facility event. There are some parallels as far as producing a show, a reluctant heroine participating in it. I think that it'd be great if we get some kind of banner that features Lapis or at least has her sparkable. She's still a fantastic adventure, very useful adventure to have in your collection. Maybe they do have the Dream Summon out now. Like maybe some players are considering Dream Summoning for her. It'd be interesting to see if they bring her showcase back and just what is meant by fewer events and fewer new adventurers. Like, will we actually see? We've very rarely seen this in Dragalia Lost since they switched to the 2 gala a month system with the remix and then the proper gala. But could we actually just see like a prize showcase with old characters? It's been a long time since we had that. We had one with like Naveed, some other characters. Maybe they just put Lapis on a showcase, throw Opera Karina on there, put them both together, like make it a prize showcase and call it a day, and there's no new adventure. I think that actually might not be such a bad idea, but from a monetization standpoint, maybe it doesn't entice fans to summon quite as much, and that could be sort of an issue. So not sure if we'll ever see something like that, but there are certainly some adventures that are more valuable than others for clearing content. Lapis has got to be one of them. So I would imagine the devs, in much the same way they kind of know that Grace for a time was like super good, I feel like Lapis is probably in that same camp. So hopefully she makes an appearance in some fashion and is a little bit easier to get a hold of, since I believe she was on a showcase with Gala Poseidon and that was the last time she had an appearance right up. Alright, so moving on from the Phantom's Ransom, Legend difficulty for Lilith's Encroaching Shadow, a first for the Rise of the Sinister Dominion, and Flame Element quests up to level 70 for the Mercurial Gauntlet will be added. Both of these additions will push your roster to the limit, so prepare as best as you can. So when it comes to Legend difficulty of the Sinister Dominion, my baseline expectation is that we have, let's say, about 4 phases in those fights. In Master difficulty of the Sinister Dominion, the demons start off in their demon form, and midway through, they change elements, and they're still in their demon form, but they're in another element. My expectations with the Legend difficulty is that they will start out in the Fallen Angel form within one element, they will change into demon form in that same element, and then midway through, they'll switch elements, and then finally, toward the very end of their life, they will go berserk in the second element. So I expect those to be kind of the 4 phases. My baseline just being they'll continue on berserk, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, right? Berserk could be a special thing unique to the Agito. Who knows how we go with the Sinister Dominion? Maybe we'll have like more back and forth element swapping or something like that. Maybe they'll switch into their raid variant and the battle style, the arena will change or something. That'd be kind of interesting. There are basically different ways that they could take this, and I wouldn't mind if it's simple and it's just berserk, but anything that's fresher, more original than that will sort of be beyond my expectations. I'm just sort of setting my expectations at there'll probably be a berserk phase, it'll probably be kind of more of the same. I don't expect that much difference mechanically. Lilith is an interesting one because as the Sinister Dominion fights released, I think we started to realize that she wasn't as unique of a fight as I would have hoped. When the Sinister Dominion was announced, we were told that Curse of Nihility was a common mechanic in all of the fights. To prepare ourselves for that, to recognize that buffs weren't going to work, that was information we had. We were not told that Creeping Corrosion would be a common mechanic. So my impression of Lilith's fight at first was, oh, this is a fight with not only Nihility but Corrosion. So it demands healing. That's different. That's kind of special about Lilith. And to be fair to Lilith, she does have some of the more intensive corrosion in Phase 2 of the Master difficulty, and it does require a good amount of healing. So it is still kind of special to her. But as the fights continued on, and you see all of them have not only Nihility but corrosion, then you sort of look back and wonder, like, well, what did Lilith actually have that set her apart and made her different? All the other fights have some kind of special gimmick, whether it's Iblis with the afflictions, Surtr with the crystals and the Daystar restoration, the defensiveness. He also has an affliction mechanic, but a different one. Yaldabaoth with the spawns, Asura with the masks. All of them have kind of like a different special thing, but Lilith really didn't have one, as far as I can tell. And so what was a very fresh fight at the time, as more of the Sinister Dominion revealed itself, it started to feel to me more like the prototype rather than the finished product. And that makes me hopeful for Legend that they can really put some new mechanics or a new spin on things to add a fresh sort of feel to that battle. I don't expect a whole lot. It's more of like a remix of the original mechanics, but I still think it could be kind of cool. So that's my thoughts on Lilith. And as for the Mercurial Gauntlet, well, the Mercurial Gauntlet, especially the most recent one where you had to use wind enemies to take on Water Roy, it's really shot up as far as the HP of the boss. So we'll see what happens with the flame-attuned Roy. I guess we're going to be using Water Adventurers next, and at least hopefully we'll be able to bog, and that might be helpful, but because we're able to bog, the HP might also be ridiculous on the boss. They've made Roy quite tanky as of late, so we'll see if that continues. It's not really a mode that I focus a lot of my time or attention on anymore, but there are Sunlight Stones behind it, even in the higher difficulties that they released most recently, so it is worth doing. It's just, I think for 2 out of 3 of the most recent updates, you can just sort of auto it, and I think with the wind roster, it's hardest to auto it right now among the 3 elements where 70 is available. So it hasn't been that that demanding, I guess. Anyway, the next thing here is about Harle's Trial. That's being added to Trials of the Mighty in mid-November. And appropriately, you're going to get materials for unlocking Gala Leaf's Mana Spiral. So, Trials of the Mighty continue. It's a way to reskin and reuse bosses. We're still having the time gating with getting these Conviction and Devotion items. Hopefully you didn't miss out on some Reverica or Gala Elisan because they are not around this month, and they're some of the most coveted adventures right now for Surtr. More so Elisan than some Reverica, of course. But that's my one frustration that remains with Trials of the Mighty. We have the Omnisite now. It's sort of it's a hashed out topic. I don't have a whole lot else to say. My one frustration or one hope for the future is just to have more weeks where instead of 2 choices, there are 3. For those players who did miss out, like I haven't finished my Gala Elisan. If there were a choice next week, I think it's just going to be Kirsty and Lazary, but if they would have thrown Gala Ellie on there, I probably would have gone for that, to be honest. So I think just having more weeks where there's actually 3 choices instead of 2, so that players can catch up, that is my hope for the future. I don't think the system's going to be changing anytime soon. It's not a super beloved system. Veterans and new players alike do not seem crazy about Trials of the Mighty. Okay, so moving on from that, a Time Attack Challenges event pitting you against flame-attuned enemies will be held in late November. Time Attack, I have not kept up with whatsoever. I know Iblis happened, looks like Surtr's happening now. These seem to be taking place with a regular cadence every month, so who knows what we're going to get at the end of December. Will our primordial content be out yet? And if so, would we really want to have a time attack as the way to kick it off? That's what I wonder. Or maybe will we just get some kind of surprise time attack? Maybe a Mursayati Reckoning time attack? That could be a nice holdover while we're getting the primordial content up and running, and then in subsequent months we move on to time attack with primordial dragons or great worms. I don't necessarily feel like we even need to continue time attack. It's not something I would be heartbroken if it disappears, but it feels like it's low cost enough where like the setup costs to develop it and make it function are done. So it seems like one of those things that the devs will probably continue to use as a way of padding out the content in a given month and also giving us some rewards. So I expect it to continue, but not sure who the bosses will be. Okay, and then finally here for this month, part 2 of chapter 22 of the main campaign will be added in late November. Can't say too much about the story since part 1 just released, but I hope you're looking forward to testing your team's mettle against the special boss. I am looking forward to it. The fact that there's 2 bosses has me intrigued. So once again, just going to play through part 1 after recording this. Okay, and then we get to In Conclusion and future updates. We'll start here with In Conclusion. We got a free Omnisite. That's a pretty good giveaway for this month in Dragalia Lost. I was hoping and thinking that given Okada said these be given out for free, that they wouldn't be too rare, that we'd get maybe 1 to 2 every month. If we get that many, that's great. That's a great way to keep up with trial spirals. Even if we get 1 every month, that's still pretty solid. So we'll see how many we continue to get. It might still be kind of a special thing. Maybe they're just giving 1 out right now because it's new and we won't see any for a while. But I might hang on to this one. The other 2 I just burned right away, kind of expecting that we'll probably get some more in the future. And they're ultimately a materials saver, so might as well use them and take advantage. Anyway, reading future updates now. Legend difficulty for Yaldabaoth's Piercing Gale is coming in early December. The only surprise here for me is just early December as opposed to late. And then additional dragons will be able to be unbound up to 5 times instead of 4 in late November. For further details, please see the corresponding in-game notification. Notice that the next story update is also late November, so I wonder if they're going to start pairing the 5th Unbind to the story nowadays, just like they used to pair the new Draconic Essences to the story. It seems like they might be doing that. We did get our update with Cupid, Leviathan, and so on not too long ago, and these 5th Unbound dragons they're seriously quite good. They're not on the level of Chronos Nyx, let's say, but they're still much improved and very, very usable for endgame content through Legend Agito, through Master Sinister Dominion. They're very good, so it's nice to have that as a free-to-play option. In an update in late November, Knott's Notes will provide a way to reread stories from the main campaign, facility events, raid events, onslaught events, and more. It'll also include any character introductions and unique art that were part of those stories. So I like the unique art aspect of this, as well as the character introduction. I think what they mean by that is whenever a character first appears in a story, sometimes they'll like do a cut-in animation and they'll have like a title for the character, and there'll be these sort of dots in the background. Not sure if y'all remember this, but that is a thing that happens in some story events when characters appear for the first time. Or not story events literally, but in the stories of some events is what I mean to say. But yeah, that's kind of a nice little quality of life update. This month's version update, or the past months for end of October, really not a whole lot of note. So it might be maintenance period for Dragalia, or like maintenance mode, so to speak, where we're just going to be getting these smaller updates from now on. Because that sounds like a nice update for Knott's Notes, and I think that is what a lot of people wanted with the original idea of the encyclopedia. But it also just feels like more of a quality of life, like nice to have but not a must-have type of thing, and doesn't really affect gameplay. It's kind of like making things more complete. And then finally here, the thing I'm most excited for, or most hyped for, Enter the Kaleidoscape is set for a late December release. Okada will have more information and updates to share on this particular topic in next month's message, so stay tuned. So we got nothing on Kaleidoscape, but that is the one thing that I'm really holding out hope for, I would say. End of December or late December is fine by me. That'll be a nice holiday break period between semesters, good time to check things out. And well, that is pretty much going to do it for this month in Dragalia Lost. Was definitely on the lighter side, but we made the most of it. We had a good length discussion here about what's happening this month. Let me know what you're most excited about in the comments below. I'd be curious your take on who's going to appear in the Onslaught event. Is it going to be Harle? Is there any possibility of Heidenwald like I mentioned? Or maybe it's just somebody else that I haven't even thought of. I'd be really curious to hear what you have to say on that. Otherwise though, thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.